Hello, everybody. It's Friday. This one is a little bit different. For quite some time, I wasn't sure if the AI explosion was pulling oxygen from the crypto world. And I had a theory, I think, at least over the past couple of months, that maybe some people were allocating to AI instead of crypto. And even some of the long-term holders may have been cashing in their crypto chips, selling their long-term Bitcoin to rotate into crypto, into AI, I should say, not crypto. And this video today is kind of one of my theories. Sometimes I get these theories and they're not actually proven correct until 6 months or a year after the fact, or they could be completely wrong. But anyway, these are my thoughts. This is what I've been thinking about all last night. And we're going to talk about this AI bubble. Is it actually popping? Well, for the first time, there are signs yesterday that it is. And we're going to dig into it, as well as sentiment, a little bit of macro, a little bit of crypto, a little bit of Bitcoin action as well. Thank you, Beatty McGee, Rusted Woods, QCoiner, Quebec Coiner, GQ Trader, of course, Sean D, TD, and K8. Let's get into the story, not financial advice. And Brian DeTio, Patreon for life. I hope I can make it at least a couple more years. Thank you so much. And while things are pinging, I got to shut down a couple of things here as well. Crazy world. Excuse me. Let's get into the story. First of all, sentiment and signals. Again, this video is a little bit different to my normal videos. We're starting different. Sentiment and signals suck. Extreme fear, both in stock markets and in crypto. In fact, stock market is even more fearful than crypto. And crypto is actually making a little bit of a kind of a rebound return, which is not bad to see. Let's get the exact price right now. I know we broke 103,000 on Bitcoin, 103,200, up 2,000 today, which is good. And the AI world is getting shattered all across the board. So our proxies, DBF, thank you so much. Let's talk about the macro for a second, because this sets the stage of what I'm talking about. First of all, sentiment is at a joint record low. This is quite terrifying, my friends. Let me explain why. We have had, and shout out to long-term holders as well, US sentiment is at its second lowest level ever on record in history. Now, there are some things behind this that may not meet the eye. First of all, the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey used to be the best, but now apparently the 65% of the people that are responding to the survey are actually Democratic. They're from the left. Nothing wrong with being from the left, by the way, or from the right. But the point is, the left sometimes can skew things a certain way because they're not happy with maybe the president or the government shutdown, etc. And therefore, sentiment could be falsely skewed too much down, but at the same time, it's a pretty reliable indicator. And this is the lowest since 2008. That was global financial crisis, my friends. Investor confidence also has weakened considerably. Many expect potential failure across the board. Maybe a crash, maybe a bubble bursting, maybe a black swan, maybe the tariffs are just breaking things at last. It is not good out there, and that also reflects in the market today. Now, liquidity, again, without the booze, the party is boring. And the question is, shutdown. When will the government shutdown? When will it end? Because as I said in yesterday's video, I analyzed the history of what happens after the government reopens. We know that the government being closed sucks all the liquidity out of the system. But when it opens, a glut of liquidity hits. That's a good thing. Very good thing. Now, for the poly market, they believe the government could reopen again on the 17th of November. That's 10 days. We're already at day 38, 39, if I'm not mistaken. It's already a record shutdown. And I know our friends in Europe probably say, who cares? Like Dutch Joe, who cares about the US government shutdown? The answer is, I don't know, but it does suck liquidity out of the system. It does impact the stock markets, which are heavily US denominated, and it also, they always say that Bitcoin is the best sniffer of liquidity on the planet. When there's no liquidity, Bitcoin suffers, but it's doing well today. Anyway, do we have to wait another 10 days? Maybe, but that could bring about extreme bargains as well. The market could continue to dip. So we'll watch this very carefully. Now, what's happening too as well, we're getting travel disruptions. Air traffic controllers aren't turning up. Food stamps aren't being issued. Layoffs are happening. It is a really ugly situation. And in fact, many believe it could actually trigger a recession too. So we're getting to the red fire alarm level of this shutdown, really beginning to cause some pain. Again, record shutdown. It's ridiculous that adults cannot come to terms and agree on stuff. It just shows you how pathetic all governments are. Off my rant box now. Let's talk about Bitcoin and crypto, the stuff we really care about. And sorry to set the stage, but this is important to get our heads around exactly what's going on. And then we'll get into the AI stuff. November is down 6% so far. And by the way, historically speaking, you know, all the previous bull runs, 30, 50% drawdowns were normal. And now people freak out over 6%. So in the perspective of things, 6% is a nothing burger. And the month before that was 4%. So overall 10% correction, again, a nothing burger. But because we're at that huge level of 100,000, you know, when Bitcoin falls $3,000, it seems like a lot, but it's only 3%. So put things in perspective, things are not that bad at all for Bitcoin. And let's talk about other stuff that's tangential to Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, again, for our friends in Europe, I had a feeling they would be hungry for a 10% yield on a product that basically has next to no risk. Of course, there's always risk in every product, but this one is pretty high up the capital food chain. Unless Bitcoin goes below 20K, there is zero risk in this product. The question is, could Bitcoin go below 20K? I don't think so. But MicroStrategy upsized their Euro preferred stock. I think it's STRE is the ticker. They initially had planned to raise 350 million euros. Remember, the euro is now trading about 1.16 to the dollar. So 350 million euros is nearly $400 million, my friends. They've upped that to nearly 620 million, nearly doubling. And guess what they're going to do with that? Woohoo, they're going to go buy Bitcoin. And that'll be a nice bag. That's enough to pump Bitcoin pretty well. So for our European friends out there, there is hope. And I know hope is not a strategy. And a big thank you to everybody for coming. Happy Friday. In other news, too, there's lots of burglings around about the U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. It's now identified as a valid actual wallet, and they see all the bags in there right now. And the total balance is 325,000 Bitcoin. Again, the plan is for the U.S. government to get to 1 million Bitcoin. They're basically a third of the way there through confiscations, which of course isn't fair. But that's a $37 billion bag, which is quite substantial. Also, the U.S. president's sons have a mining company that are mining Bitcoin. I think they have got about 4,000 Bitcoin. So again, everything is aligned. Maybe this SPR thing could actually come to fruition, maybe in 2026. I don't know. But technically, it's already in existence. Maybe they can confiscate more Bitcoin and add to the bag. So if you do have Bitcoin that's at risk of being confiscated, be careful. They're coming for your bags. Now, let's get into the big story as to how this could actually be good for crypto. Again, I'm thinking a little bit outside of the box here. First of all, OpenAI, they had a situation where you have this guy called Scam Altman. He's been doing roadshow after roadshow after roadshow, talking about, oh, well, we make so much money and we're doing great and we are the leaders and we are strategic to the US government and this, that, and the other. And then I said, well, yeah, we're going to do an IPO next year. And then within days, it's like, no, we can't actually do an IPO. Yeah, not going to happen. And then it's like, oh, we need to raise money because we're planning to spend $1 trillion and we're losing about 30 billion a quarter. So something is broken here. And we need to ask our government for money. This has sent shockwaves through me and all the people that are calling for an AI bubble or saying, told you so. Now, I always said that like NVIDIA at a P of 32 and infinite demand for the chips and everything is all well and good and fine. They're going to be fine. Tesla has real stuff, kick off free cash flow. They're going to be fine. But there is an impact when you have a company the size of ChatGPT, OpenAI / Microsoft imploding, that will send shockwaves and a repricing, a re-underwriting of all AI assets through the system. It could also hammer NVIDIA in a big way, because all of a sudden, if OpenAI hit the pause button on buying chips, and there's a lot of other problems with the chips too. I made a big Patreon post about it last night because I was very concerned about the bubble potentially bursting. That could impact the whole food chain, which is not good. Also, a lot of people are talking about this. This is the if anybody ever saw the Theranos or read about the Theranos story, it's fascinating. A lot of people are likening this guy Sam Altman to Theranos. A lot of experts on X doing that. I thought it was kind of funny, but it's just a hilarious image that's worth sharing. So there are definitely AI bubble concerns out there. And the OpenAI want the US government to bail them out. They say, invest, give us some loan guarantees, $1 trillion, etc. That is ridiculous. I'm very against government bailouts. Sometimes there are certain things that happen, and if everybody's treated fairly, that's fine, like turning off the economy with C-19 or a global financial crisis. Yeah, maybe if companies need a bridge to be kept alive. But when companies have no fundamentals where they cannot compete, or they're spending way too much money, they're not controlling their burn, it's a big problem. Okay. Now, if I do hope David Sachs has the ear of the US government and can say, do not put a penny in this company. Let them die on the vine, or let somebody else bail them out. But this would be catastrophic. And this is what's sending shockwaves through the system. Also, stock markets are feeling the pain. We had record drops so far this year. Dow Jones, Nasdaq is on track for its worst week since April 8th. We all know what happened. That was tariff tantrums. And the S&P 500 tanked as well. Everything is down. Nasdaq is down. AI enthusiasm has hit a brick wall. And there's huge concentration risks. For all year, I'm saying the whole AI market is carrying the entire market. It's doing everything, carrying all the lift of all the indexes. And if that all of a sudden turns around, it could be nasty. It could be nasty. And AI is getting hammered today alone. NVIDIA down big, Apple down big, Microsoft down big, Google down, Amazon down, Tesla down, all across the board, Meta down, Oracle down. AI getting hammered. It goes up very fast, but everything mean reverts. And that is kind of the situation right now. Now, as far as I'm concerned, and I could be wrong, I still do believe that AI was sucking a lot of the oxygen from the crypto world. It was no longer the shiny new toy. And if AI implodes, money could rotate back to crypto. We're already seeing that today. We're seeing basically Bitcoin moving counter to the AI stocks. And we also know that when poop hits the fan, when there is a crisis, like a banking crisis or a recession, people do fly to safety. And the question is, as we saw with the Silicon Valley Bank crisis, Bitcoin was that safety. And we all know about the debasement trade from JP Morgan and others. Bitcoin is in the debasement trade alongside gold. Maybe, let's check on the price of gold. Actually, I didn't check that today. What's happening with the gold? Gold is up at exactly $4,000, up $22 today. Bitcoin's up another $300 since I started. So yes, AI is getting hammered. Crypto's going up. We'll see if this theory holds. And we know crypto typically does well on the weekends. So that's kind of the story today. And we're going to finish with meme du jour, which I thought was hilarious. Central bank, inflation, CBDCs. I require only that you take a knee. Bitcoiner, that's gonna be a problem. I thought that was funny. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Sean D, Peter McGee, Rusted Woods, Quebec Coiner, GQ Trader, Nick M, DBF 430, that Kiwi guy, James, Dutch Jojo, Meeple, Wayne, Renato, and of course, T&D, Sean D, K8. Actually, T&D is out. Yeah, she's out having dinner, I hope. Thank you all for coming. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend, my friends. Talk to you soon.